Good morning, class. Today we are going to begin with the next chapter of history, that is chapter number 3 in the earliest cities. So, children, whenever you see a old building, what do you think? We feel like who would have created this? What would have been the reason behind? What is the history behind? So, yes, children, every old building has a story to tell. So, nearly 150 years ago, when railway lines were laid down for the very first time in Punjab, the engineers they were shocked upon the sight of Harappa, which is now in present day Pakistan. To them, it seemed like a rich source of ready-made and a high-quality bricks, because the quality of bricks which were used in that place was really very nice. So they carried off thousands of bricks from the walls of the old buildings, the various buildings which were built at that place. They used to break that buildings down and took all the bricks from there to make up the railway lines. Why? Because the bricks was of really nice quality. Then, about 80 years ago, children, the archaeologists found this site. You all know who are the archaeologists, the one who study the archaeological sources. We did it in the previous chapter. So they realized that this Harappa is one of the oldest cities of the Indian subcontinent, and as this was the first city to be discovered, all other sites from where similar buildings were found were described as Harappan. And children, more than 4500 years ago, people used to live in these cities that were situated at the banks of river Indus, and their civilization is called as Indus Valley Civilization or Harappan civilization. So children, in this chapter we are going to discuss about this Harappan civilization in detail, how the place used to be, how did the people used to live there, what was their living standards, what were their eating habits, and so many different things. Okay, so let's start with the features of this civilization. So children, in the ancient world, there has been no other civilization which has shown so much advancement as the Indus Valley civilization. The cities of this civilizations were well developed urban centers. The places were very well developed and it was so advanced like we have today. So the buildings were made up of stones and burnt bricks. And children, this civilization was also known for its spectacular city planning and efficiency, because each and every corner, each and every part was so beautifully planned and designed. Let's see about the town planning of Harappan civilization. So children, under this civilization, the city of Indus Valley were very well planned. Many cities were divided into two parts, the upper towns and the lower towns. Usually the upper part of the upper part was on the west side, which used to be smaller and higher, whereas the lower part used to be on the east side. It was bigger and it was lower. And children, the upper part was known as citadel. What is citadel? It is a fort-like structure which is built on raised platform. So it was known as citadel. Then children, in this there were so many special buildings. There were a number of special buildings over here. Let's study about them one by one. The very first one was in Mohenjo-daro. The largest building was granary. Now what is a granary? Granary, children, is a building where grains are stored. So Mohenjo-daro has the largest building, largest place for storing grains. The granaries were used for storing surplus grain, and 6 granaries has been found at Harappa. Then moving on to the second important building, it was the Great Bath. Now what is Great Bath? So another well-known structure at Mohenjo-daro is the Great Bath. It is a rectangular structure resembling a swimming pool. एक swimming pool की तरह एक rectangular structure है that was probably used for religious purposes by the people. Discussing about the third special building. The another building nearby was probably used as a town hall, children, where all the residents of the city gathered. It looked like a assembly hall where all the people they used to gather and take important decisions for the city. And other cities such as Kalibangan and Lothal had fire altars where sacrifices have been performed. So these are about the various special buildings which have been found under the Harappan civilization. Then, talking about the lower part, children, the residential buildings or houses that have been found are always found in the lower town. The houses here suggest detailed architectural planning. Like nowadays we go for various plans before making a house. So in the same manner उस time में भी जो houses थे, they seemed like they have been made after proper architectural planning. They were either 1 or 2 stories high and were built of baked bricks. Individual houses had 1 or more rooms, and each house had a bathing area and a place for cooking. Means everything was properly planned, different area for cooking, different for bathing, rooms, everything. And most of the house had a well, a kitchen, a circular oven, a mortar and a pestle for grinding spices. You all have studied about mortar and pestle in the previous chapter. And moreover, children, the houses had drain pipes which were connected to the main drain. That means no open drains like we have today. Everything was underground. Proper sewage system was there. The drains of the houses were covered and they were directly connected to the main drain to avoid any kind of disturbances in the area. Now coming to the drains and the drainage system of the Harappan civilization, children. So the drainage system of this time was one of the best of the ancient times. Drain were constructed on the either sides of the roads, means on the both sides of the road there were drains. Kitchens and bathrooms had drains that were directly connected to the main street drains. They were covered with slabs of stone that could only be removed to clean them. Otherwise, the drains used to remain covered throughout, which decreased the possibilities of various infections. And since the drain holes were covered, the drains were completely covered with slabs, there used to be an inspection hole that was provided at intervals to clean them. And such a well-planned drainage system tells us that the Indus Valley people, they were very particular and careful about their health and sanitation. They were very particular about cleanliness. They were very particular about their health. They wanted everything to be neat and clean, since the drains of that time, in so much ancient time when there was no such technological things, nobody was educated, then also they were really concerned about the sanitation of their area. Then this was about the drains. The next thing we will discuss is the streets. The roads are laid at the Harappa, children, was based on a grid system. Streets were oriented east to west. The roads, they ran parallel to each other and they used to cut at right angles. They were paved with burnt bricks and were round off at the centers, allowing cart traffic to flow smoothly. There were so many parallel roads that used to run parallel to each other, and at the center there used to be a round off so that the traffic could be guided properly. Then let's discuss about how the people of that time used to live. What was the life at the Harappan areas? So children, the conditions prevailing on the banks of river Indus and its tributaries were favorable for the settlement of people because everything was available. The planning of the city was really nice. The climate was warm and moist, and the fertile soil could be used for growing different types of crops. Sindh and Rajasthan were not deserts but were covered with forest, which provided a plenty of timber for the construction of houses and boats and for fuel. So these areas nearby, they used to also provide them with the raw material which was required by them for the various day by day activities. Now let us now learn about the life of people in Harappa. So very firstly, we are going to discuss about their social life. So, children, there were probably different social groups in the Harappan society. They all did not belong to one single social group. The political and social institutions have become more complex by this time. Aaj ke time mein, now we have got these things so much complex, so much rigidity has been there, but it was no longer a society where everyone was equal. There were differences in power, prestige, and wealth. At the top of the Harappan society, children, there were the people who planned the constructions of the monumental buildings in the city. और वो probably कौन होते थे? Rulers होते थे. Then there were some people who knew how to write on seals. Now some after rulers, there were the next group of people, those who knew how to write. And at the last ladder, there were skilled merchants and traders and some kind of religious specialists. So this was the different people, the different backgrounds of the people who used to live under the Harappan civilizations. Now let's see what clothes, ornaments and articles they used in their daily life. So people wore cotton and woolen clothes, children. The men wore something similar to dhoti and the women wore a skirt. Many ornaments that have been found which prove that the Harappans were fond of wearing jewelry. So many jewelry items have been found in their area which proves that the women of that time, they were very fond of jewelry. Ornaments are made up of gold, silver, bronze, copper and several types of beads. Then earthenware we discussed about in the previous chapter. Earthenware, utensils, pots and many figures have been discovered at Harappa. And children, a dancing girl bronze figure, a very important discovery, a dancing girl statue was discovered at Mohenjo-daro and it is the most famous one. And we have also discovered the statue of the Christ King, that is also another popular figure. So children, till today we have discussed a few features about the Harappan civilization and we'll be discussing more about the people of this civilization in the next segment.